It's Wednesday. It's another hot day for the waiver wire. And today we're going to talk about 20 hot players who are sitting on the waiver wire right now that you may want to pick up right now, today. But before we do, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're going deep on the waiver wire every single day with multiple player lists. Tomorrow, later today, I'll have more player lists coming out for you to look at. And on top of that, we're doing deep dives on the trending players with the You Need series. And then also, we're using these videos to help you set your lineups. Click that button, stop missing out. But we got 20 players to talk about today. And we're talking about Justin Fields because as long as he's a starting quarterback and he's sitting there on the waiver wire, he's always going to be an option because he's running the ball. He's going to give you a baseline 4-5 fantasy points on the ground per game. Also, whatever he does throwing the ball, he heaves it downfield to George Pickens, and that's going to allow him to get some upside. The passing volume's not there. If it was, he would not be on the waiver wire. He'd be rostered and he'd be started. That would be just a given thing. That being said, he's a Konami code quarterback, runs the ball, can really go off on any given week. Kind of got that Tim Tebow. He's our generation's Tim Tebow right now. That's pretty much what he is. And that being said, he's a quarterback that's better for fantasy than in real life. And it's going to be up and down with his career just because the nature of the game and what we've seen already. The sample's big enough to know that right now. But he can be good for fantasy football. It might be spotty. It might be up and down. But if you're looking at the waiver wire for a quarterback and you're scratching your head, he's a gamble every week because he's going to be running the ball. Hunter Henry's running a lot of routes and getting a lot of targets. I don't look for this to be a 12-target game every week. I don't look for that to happen, but I look for him to get volume over the middle and get that opportunity. I don't look for the Patriots to have to throw the ball a lot every week. But, again, a lot of you guys are streaming tight ends. A lot of you guys need tight ends. And he shouldn't be on the waiver wire, but he is rostered in just about 40% of leagues on Sleeper, which could be different, ESPN and Yahoo and whatever. But he is a trending name right now, a guy to look at, a guy to play with off the waiver wire. And the thing about tight ends, unless you score in like the top 5, top 3, once you get far out of that, say you're like the tight end 8 for the week, 9, 10, 11, whatever, depending on the week and how things are going with scoring, you're not going to be too far off, scoring-wise, from the tight end 25. Usually, it's like 3 to 5 points difference. So, try to shoot for upside if you're gambling weekly. Quentin Johnston. Everybody had him left for dead going into the season. And he started running a lot of routes in week 1. Then Palmer came into this game hurt, but was playing through it. He got a lot of run this week. Same amount of snaps as last week. But the targets was there. In 2 games, he saw 11 targets, but a 25% target share. 21 routes ran per game. We're getting a good ADOT. We scored 2 touchdowns last week. We're getting the ball pushed to us downfield. We're good against the boundary. And he's going to be a player that you're going to have on your bench and you're going to play the matchups with. There's not many good matchups for the Chargers because they're a slower paced team. We did a deep dive on him. You may want to check that out if you're thinking about picking up Quentin Johnston. I'm not here to sell you these 20 players. I'm here to talk about these 20 players. And I'm not going to sell you on any of them. I'm going to talk about the good and bad, ugly, the great, and then allow you to make your decision because you guys are smart. But Quentin Johnston is a good wide receiver that his game doesn't really translate to consistent fantasy production unless the volume's going to be there and the matchup has to be right in this situation for this offense because they want to run the football. Go check that deep dive, but he should be rostered as a back-end piece on somebody's roster as a matchup play, as a guy that you're throwing in there once those bye weeks and injuries really start to mount up. Derek Carr should be rostered, but I'm seeing him questioned in a lot of waiver wire articles, so I just threw him in there. And again, I'm not batching up 20 players to sell you, but a lot of people are talking about him, so I'll talk about him right now. The Saints are in a lot of high-scoring games. He's pushing it downfield. He's not getting a lot of air yards right now because he doesn't need to, but he will throw those deep bombs, those YOLO balls. So there is going to be a lot of air yards coming his way from that arm right there because he's going to get in matchups where this team's going to get pushed and he's going to have to push it more downfield. And his fantasy production is going to have some games where it skyrockets, and you're going to play the matchup with it, or you just rock with Derek Carr and play with it. 80% of his balls are catchable right now. He's hot right now. He's hot. The Saints are hot. They're 2-0. They're blowing out teams. Carson Steele. A lot of you guys are picking him off waivers. And he's going to get the rock between the tackles. He's going to get opportunity. Every checkpoint he has to face, he levels up. At the college game, when he's transferring to the bigger school, to UCLA, he leveled up past the test. When it came to being an undrafted free agent and then going through training camp and preseason, he passed the test. Whenever he's on the field, he looks good. Not the fastest, not the most flashiest running back. If anything, he's a running back to root for. He's a running back to root for because the odds were stacked against him and he keeps beating him. He is a grinder back that you're looking at. And you want one of these backs off the Chiefs because you do not know which one's really going to go off. Carson Steele is the unknown, and he's got that unknown upside to him, and he's that guy that could just come out of nowhere and show that upside. Samaje Perine's good in the passing game, and Carson Steele was using the passing game in college his second year, had a 10% target share, but he's not running many routes right now with the Chiefs, but that could change going forward. That could change somewhere down the line, but don't forget about that. But Samaje Perine historically has been good in the passing game for the Bengals, with Denver, and now some with the Chiefs. 13 routes on the season, 20.6 route participation rates. He's running about 6.5 routes per game. He's going to be using the passing game. He's going to get some checkdowns and probably use between the tackles a little bit. He's a veteran. He's reliable. He's going to be used on the field. You want one of these Chiefs running backs, and honestly, it's plucking strings. For me, when I give you guys a suggestion for this backfield, I'm going to say it this way. Samaje Perine's probably the safer option. Is probably good to go due to him catching balls out of the backfield. I think Carson Steele might be okay. I think they're going to mix it up because they had to bring in Kareem Hunt. They have to be worried about this backfield. They got what they got. They're trained up to go. If one of these go down, I don't think they want to give a heavy workload to either one of these running backs and risk them going down too because they're really going to be in a pickle. Carson Steele, I think he's going to be okay, and I think there's a lot more upside to him with that unknown. So go with your gut on that one. If you really want to ask with what I'm going with, I'm probably going to go with Carson Steele, but I'm more of a gambler. That means I'm taking more risk. That means I also notice there's a downturn to that, and Samaje Perine could outscore him. Colby Parkinson is running a lot of routes. He's running a lot of wind sprints. He is getting targets. He is getting opportunities here. And the thing is, he's eventually going to connect in a game in the right matchup, where they're not covering him as tightly. This offense is going to look different. Maybe they run the ball even more. Maybe we see that. But this offense is going to look a lot different without those two hosses, that wide receiver. Antonio Gibson is a premium handcuff. If Ramondre Stevenson goes down, he's going to get a lot of work. He's probably going to get over 20 touches per game. He's got speed to bust off long gains. They want to run the football. They're good at running the football. He is a premium handcuff right now. And they're using him right now, 11 rushing attempts. They're using him out of the backfield, catching balls. 30% opportunity share right now in week 2. That being said, he's a premium handcuff. If Stevenson goes down, you want Gibson. Even if you don't have Stevenson, you want that stash at running back. If Stevenson goes down, you got a running back that's going to walk into touches. Malik Willis, same thing as Justin Fields. When he runs the ball, he can pick up yards, and that's probably what he's going to do. We got a revenge game this week on the road. To him, it's almost a home game. He knows the facilities. He knows where to go in the stadium and all that stuff. So he's going to be a little less nervous. Maybe he's just nervous altogether. I don't know. I'm just lying there. But 6 rushing attempts per game. One game, though. One game sample, really. But he's going to run the ball. He got 41 yards rushing on 6 rushing attempts. He's going to run it because he has not been in the system a long time. And he has trying to keep up with speed. He's trying to keep the ship afloat. He's doing okay. He's doing okay for the chip stacked against him. 14 passing attempts. He's not a must start. He's not a must get. But if you're patching things up at quarterback, you want a Konami code, Malik Willis might be it. Jalen Nailor's a guy to pay attention to. Jefferson's banged up. Addison's banged up. Hawks hurt. He's out. Addison's ankle seems like he's going to be out for a bit. Maybe not. Jefferson might be back. Might not be back. Jalen Nailor is going to run a lot of routes. I think he deserves a deep dive, chat. I think he deserves a deep dive. So I'll do a You Need Jalen Nailor later today. But he's going to run a lot of routes. He ran 100% of routes last week. Probably going to run 100% of routes this week against Houston. That's really going to push the passing game. And this is going to be a fun matchup for him. Maybe he gets more opportunity, more volume. But you know the volume's at least going to be there with the routes. Dameon Pierce was out last week with a hamstring. So you're kind of looking at Cam Akers and there as well. Cam coughed up the ball. So that might limit his opportunities. He got yanked after he coughed it up, so there's something to pay attention to. So that's going to lean more to Dameon Pierce when he comes back if Mixon is missing a lot of time. That being said, watch Mixon, watch Pierce, watch Cam, watch the backfield here, and he might be plucking one up. Zach Ertz is getting workload. He's getting a good IDOT. He's getting targeted. Some games he's going to go off. Some games he's not. But if you're looking for a Moneyball piece at tight end, this could be you. Bucky Irving, because he's getting more workload. And he might earn more workload throughout the season. He might steal some from Rachaad White. That might happen, and that might happen middle of the year. That might happen sooner than later. But he might be a guy you want to stash. He's a premium handcuff. He should not be on the waivers, but he is in over 50% of leagues on Sleeper. He's rostered in just 42% of leagues. You see it right down there below me. That being said, roster him if he's there. Jalen Polk is an upside play, rostered in 30% of leagues. Second round pick. He's got speed to burn. He can also break off routes, create separation, and they're splitting up the routes among these wide receivers, and they're all getting opportunity here. We're not getting many games where they're pushing the rock. The Patriots want to be slow, but the thing is, we don't have world beater wide receivers on this team for him to compete with. So really, if he can beat these gatekeeping wide receivers and just earn the alpha job and get the targets, that might happen down the line. That might happen down the line. That might happen with Drake May. Watch Jalen Polk. Might be a stash play or a watch play off the waiver wire. Ray Davis is a guy you need to pay attention to. James Cook is getting a ton of touches, a ton of work. They're going to run him into the ground. If something happens, they got to go to Ray Davis. And Ray Davis, they were trying to get him touches in the second quarter, but James Cook was just too hot. James Cook was just too hot. Ray Davis fumbled a good bit in preseason. They're worried about that. They got him in a doghouse due to that, but he's very dependable in pass protection and good between the tackles. So when he gets his opportunity, he's going to be a guy that's going to be on the field due to that. He's going to keep Josh Allen upright, and he's going to be good between the tackles. He's a guy that's just going to be a grinder, but James Cook is hot right now. Jauan Jennings, Debo out, next man up. I don't expect him to go off in a fancy sense, but I do expect him to be on the field running routes, getting targets, and might get some looks here and there due to the matchups. Braelon Allen is a must-stash, must-get. Rostered in just 21% of leagues. Everybody's talking about him right now. Scored 2 touchdowns last week. The thing is, he's used in the passing game. They're trying to get him the ball in space. They're trying to get him to where he can rumble, get that speed built up, because you're not going to be able to tackle a 235-pound running back who's up to speed. We saw this at Wisconsin, especially when he was just 17 years old as a freshman. Once he hits that hole and he's gone, because you're not going to tackle this guy. He's got build-up speed. Like, I'm not saying he's fast. I'm not saying he's a fast back. But once he gets up to speed, he can ghost you because you're not going to be able to make that tackle. There's a lot of times last week, there were 2 plays that's really coming to mind right now where they're trying to gang tackle him. They could not bring him down. It's just him just spinning out, just out of bounds all of a sudden, or they just called the play dead, but they're not bringing him down. There's multiple guys on him. Once he's up to speed, he's tough to tackle. The Jets know that. Opposing defenses know that. They try to corral him. They try to just make sure the gaps are stuffed. Braelon Allen's got some upside here. He is the cuff to Breece Hall. Alec Pierce is a YOLO play. When Josh Downs is back, he's going to siphon some workload. Maybe, but Pierce is rolling right now. He deserves a look at least. He's going to get air yards. He's got an average depth of target of 23. That is more than elite. That is top tier. And he's also bringing in those targets. He's getting 5 targets a game, 20% target share in that ADOT. That is something you want to roll with every week. It's going to be very splashy. Those deep targets, sometimes you get overshot by the quarterback, and that's your opportunity for the game. You get 2 of those, you get overshot by your quarterback, and that's it. Or you bring him in, you score 30 fantasy points. That's the thing about a guy like Alec Pierce. I think there's going to be some games where he does nothing. He's going to frustrate you, but there's going to be more games like this where he scores 20-some fantasy points, and you're like, man, I wish I had Alex Pierce. Ty Chandler's got speed to burn. When he sees the open field, he could ghost the defense. Aaron Jones is the man there. He's going to be getting the touches and opportunity, but he's a good cuff here because they can move the football. They're keeping the offense going. Justin Jefferson will eventually be back. Chandler's getting workload right now, and also a decent snap share at 35%, considering they got Aaron Jones and a decent opportunity share pushing 40%. 9 rushing attempts a game, so he's getting a little bit of volume. Around 10 rushing attempts a game for a handcuff running back is kind of decent. If you're hurting and you want to pick somebody up. If I'm picking up a handcuff running back that I got to start, I want one with juice just in case they can break off that big play. Chandler can definitely do that. Jalen Tolbert is a wide receiver to watch. He's running 33 routes per game, ran a ton of routes against the Saints, and he's getting more and more workload throughout the week. He had 9 targets against the Saints. Everybody's talking him up. 6 catches, 82 yards. We've been saying this since training camp. He was getting more work. He was making play after play after play. He was looking good. He's got ball skills, and he has been gradually getting better throughout the years. Remember, he's from a smaller G5 college, but he was very productive there. So you had to give him some grace, some time to really develop, to really get up to speed for the NFL game. That's starting to happen. He's a good ancillary role player for the Cowboys, but the volume's going to be there, and it's going to be spiky. Maybe not against Baltimore. That's probably not the game you want to invest in Jalen Tolbert, but there's going to be matchups where he scores fantasy points. You're going to wish you had him on your fantasy team, and those games where the game script breaks, he's going to get those targets. And can you bet on Brandon Cooks playing a full season? Can you bet $100 that Brandon Cooks plays 17 games this season when he was already banged up in training camp for a little bit with a knee injury, and he's an older wide receiver who's been banged up before? Can you make that gamble? Can you make that gamble? Because if Cooks is out, Tolbert's going to get a little bit more run, a little bit more targets, a little bit more opportunity, and you may want to look at that going for it as well. He's a matchup play, a guy that you know that's not going to score much on those bad matchups, but a guy you know that could go off on those juicy ones. Let me know who you're trying to get off the waivers right now. You should hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.